Thank you for coming tonight. I'm really pleased to see you. It's Cowboy Poetry Night in Crawford, Colorado. And we got all the good poets in town here. I'm going on to Mr. Cowboy Keele, and he's just got his voice back tonight. Really, I was stressing out about Mr. Kyle's voice. Come on, Cowboy. Cowboy's like Crawford, but this Cowboy's Crawford grown.
I've had a lot of people say, oh, you should do cowboy poetry. And I don't know, my impression of a lot of cowboy poetry has always been home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the clouds, the skies are not cloudy all day. But the name of my collection is Damn Ranch. And on my damn ranch, the skies got cloudy. In fact, a heck of a thunderstorm came in, lightning struck the stack yard, and I lost a couple of months worth of hay. My best cow rolled over in the ditch and died, and both the kids and the wife took off and don't want to be around. Oh, nuts.
This is true. This is
you can have those two kids.
Well, I wrote a line. She's been gone now for quite some time, and my thoughts about it all have begun to rhyme. So the first one I'll do tonight is it's called Damn Ranch. When I was young, I just wanted to ranch. There wasn't anything I thought I couldn't do, but I swear I bit off a big old bite to chew. Sometimes living on a high Colorado mountain ranch, that can be like getting hit in the face with a swinging back tree branch. I started off with cows and hay meadows right from scratch. Ended up doing everything from the books to fixing a gate latch. I was the first, not the second or the third generation. Most of the time it took all my concentration. I had two of the finest sons any man could ever want. And what I did to them, it's given me a hell of a haunt. I worked them like slaves, and they didn't like it. They gave me several hints, like the time they told me that when they worked for me, by the hour they made 10 cents. My son figured that out one time. Now, people address my sons as Doctor and Reverend, and on Father's Day, I look forward to the cards they'll send. I had two good women in my life. They would be my daughter and my wife. They were both blonde, good-looking, and smart, but I failed to give them my heart. I gave it to this damn ranch. Sure proud of my daughter. She married someone real different than me. She's now out in California working for our country's security. I would work cows with my wife and treat her worse than the hired man. Then at the end of the day, bring in a box of ripe peaches for her to can. I didn't open up much to her. Sometimes I thought it'd be easier if she could just read my mind. But that thought scared me when I thought about what all she might find. Now, the only female on this place that I've got is that little red heifer down in the feedlot. My son says that ranching is self-imposed poverty. I think he's right, because all I've got is this piece of property. I've learned that ranching was something I could do, but being a good father and a rancher and a good husband, that was more than I could chew.
Man, you dang heel.
This next one's called Lavender and Not Having Her. Here a whole couple of years ago, it was the only kind of heat I have is wood burning stove. And you got to keep a path shoveled out to the woodshed, and the path goes through the flower bed, a stone flower bed. And my wife could grow anything, flowers. She knew the name of all the flowers, but she loved growing lavender. And the scent of lavender is not just in the blooms, you know, when it blooms, it's in the leaves, you know. So I wrote this. Last winter, in my front yard, I was shoveling snow. I uncovered some lavender that she had planted and gotten to grow. Even in the dead of winter, that lavender, it smelled great. And then I began to think about how I lost my soulmate. You gotta communicate is the advice that the counselors sell. Well, we'd get in a fight and I'd communicate only too well. It seemed like she tried to control every part of my life. I resisted it strongly. It caused a lot of strife. Why she did that at the time, to me, it just didn't occur. But now I see that she was fighting the things that took me away from her. So now, whatever I'm doing, wherever I am, if I get a whiff of lavender, I think what it's like not having her. I'll tell you a story about a steer. I want to tell you, his name was Crooked Face. He was born with a crooked face. His jaw came down and went like this, and his tongue went out this way. And about 3 days, at 2 or 3 days old, the eye on the tongue side went bad. And I don't remember us having to, I think he was able to suck on his mother. I don't remember us having to bottle feed him. But he was so ugly, you know, we couldn't sell him at the, you know, we couldn't ship him. So we decided to keep him, and we'd butcher him after, you know, a year or two. And, you know, you don't have any steers around, you sell all your steers. So we put him in with the replacement heifers, because they get fed good, you know. And he couldn't chew too good. He was always, his butt was always dirty. He was always soupy, you know, so he walked around, his tongue out, it was dirty in the back end. And, you know, you wanted to hide him when your neighbor drove in the yard. You know, he's just pitiful. He was ugly. And one day, I drove by, I was going by the pen where the replacement heifers were, and one of these heifers was in heat. And here he is, following her around with his tongue in his hand. And I thought, there's the perfect image of what most women think men are like. I should write a poem about it, but the story's good enough. It was such a pitiful sight. But one of the reasons I was able to ranch is I got a gift at fixing things. I can fix things pretty good. And I remember when if you want to call it a career at fixing things, I got married, my wife and I got married, I was 21, and we had a baby a year later, and the baby was due in December, and this was like October or November, and we had a Pontiac and the heater wasn't working on it. And my wife's thinking about driving home, you know, from the hospital with this new baby and the heater not working in the car. So needless to say, she was encouraging me to fix that car, to get that heater. And I was working part-time in a body shop, a student, and we managed apartments. We were poor as church mice, you know, and couldn't pay anybody to fix it. So I went down and looked at it, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. Well, she gave me further encouragement, to say the least, and I went down and I fixed that thing. I figured out it was a relay on the firewall, and I got it fixed. And then, as I look back, that's kind of the beginning of me being able to fix things. So I wrote this one song. There's some things though I can't fix.
Are you gonna sing it?
No.
Come on, Kyle. Kyle's got a record out there.
It's called Fixing Things. Daddy Fixie was said a lot in our house when the kids were little. I could fix most anything, broken down, cracked, or brittle. I put wrecked cars back together that were torn in two, rebuilt engines that needed a complete through and through. I even had to move my own septic tank, and I did that without having to go to get a loan from the bank. Appliances, I fixed them. Some I even had to paint. But don't get me wrong, when it comes to fixing some things, I am no saint. When it comes to my international tractor, I can replace the clutch, But when it comes to the woman I'm married to, I don't know much. I can wrestle, I can catch a first calf heifer and help her calve, but when it comes to a woman's heart, I don't know where to put the salve. I can untangle barbed wire and fix fence, and it'll last for years, but untangling feelings and emotions, that'll almost bring me to tears. I can trace down a knock and replace the bearing, but when it comes to her concerns, it's hard for me to be caring. When it comes to fixing things, I need something I can get my hands on. But when it comes to fixing our relationship, I don't have a leg to stand on.
Ooh, Kyle.
This one I'm going to do next is She Loves to Hate Me.
Don't they all?
Is it?
I can remember, it was about 10 years ago. I would have to say this is the beginning of my...
That would be about 11.
Of writing. It was one morning, my wife and I got into a knockdown, drag out, fight. And the kids were gone to school, and then I had to go out. It was the dead of winter. I had to go out and feed cows. And I had, a foot or two of snow on the ground. I was out in the tractor, and it just came to me. She just loves to hate me. That sounds like a good country western song. And then I never thought any more about it, until, years later. But I came up with this. She loves to hate me. Used to be, she loved to hold me and kiss me. And if I was gone for just a little while, she'd miss me. But now lately, she just loves to hate me. I spent the last 20 years building up my little empire and just was too busy to notice our relationship had been going up in fire. I didn't give her hardly any of my attention, and all the good things she did I forgot to mention. She had lots of little jobs around the house to do, and I put them off till tomorrow. And tomorrow never came, and that just added to her sorrow. I cussed her, treated her stupid, and almost never showed her any kindness. Oh my Lord, how did I get stricken with such blindness? I didn't turn out to be what she expected. Now I'm at a loss as to what to do to be accepted. Lately, I've been trying to get her just to date me, but she still loves to hate me.
Yeah, Kyle. This is all true stuff.
You got another one. That was so Silverstein.
I'll have to. I wrote one about my grandmother too.
Yeah.
I'll read it. My grandmother was, I grew up in the Bible Belt of Texas. My father's dad, my grandfather, was a Southern Baptist minister. And my mother's side, they were Presbyterians. And my grandmother was raised by Presbyterian school teachers. So good English was part of being a good Christian. I mean, my grandmother, if she, around us kids, it was just my sister and I had an older sister. And we spent almost every weekend at her house. My parents were kind of socialites. But my grandmother, if there was anything that she thought was offensive, she would spell it, around us. It was totally effective because she could spell so fast. Us kids, what was that, And my grandfather, he wasn't Presbyterian. He wasn't raised Presbyterian. And on Saturday mornings, he liked to tell all those whopper stories about walking to school, uphill in 2 feet of snow, and he'd walk back to school uphill in 2 feet of snow, those kind of stories. And one morning, he was talking about being out on the lake, and it was frozen, and he cut a hole in the ice, and he peed in that hole. He used the word pee. And my grandmother, she just came unglued. She started scolding him for saying something like that around us kids. And to this day, I would have never remembered the word pee, I remember her response, you know, to what he said, you know. But she was great, and I wrote this about her. I called her Grammy is the title of it. I called her Grammy, and I'm not talking about the music award. I'm talking about my grandmother and her value you could never afford. As far as looks goes, she didn't have much, but her precious hands had the softest touch. She was heavy and had short legs, and it took her quite a while to cover much land. But when it came to what was right, she would sure take a stand. She had a husband that wasn't too good to her. He called her mother. But she had said her vows, so for her there was no other. She was fearful of a lot of things, but my Lord, she sure helped me spread my wings. A lot of things in her life worked to destroy, but my sister and I gave her a lot of joy. She went and got on the bus from Texas to Colorado at the age of 85. She wanted to see her great-grandchildren while she was still alive. Well, later on we realized that concerning that visit, she'd been pretty smart, because while she was with us, she got sick and died, and I got to hold her hand during the last beat of her heart. You gotta write about a dog.
Yeah,
You gotta have something about a dog.
As long as you're not mean to it, you can be mean to your wife, but not your dog.
Your dog loves you more.
Well, this one's got kind of a twist to it. It's called Our Dog. Yeah, who said that dogs were a man's best friend? Our dog's closer to us than our next of kin. Yeah, who said dogs were a man's best friend? Lately, this dog's closer to us than they've ever been. Dogs, they're God's gift to us. There's something in our life that we can always trust. Our dog is good and never faithful. He's downright always, he's never hateful. He's downright always faithful. I don't know anyone among the living that comes so close to being as loving and forgiving. When you look at those big brown eyes, you know that he's not telling you any lies. He's always glad when he sees you. He's never sad. Damn, this dog is making me look bad. Yeah, who said that dogs were a man's best friend? This dog's closer to her than our next of kin. Yeah, who said dogs were a man's best friend? This dog's closer to her than I've ever been. Being in the doghouse has new meaning. That dog is sleeping on my bed with her, and this doghouse needs a cleaning. I used to be her main connection. Now I am competing for her affection. This thing is going in the wrong direction. It used to be the kids. Now it's that dog that's getting her attention. I hope between the dog and me, she won't have to choose, because I'm pretty sure she's thinking I'm going to be the one to lose. That dog is this dog is God's gift to her. Oh Lord, with you I need to confer. Yeah, who said that dogs were a man's best friend? Because this dog is closer to her than I've ever been.
Yeah.
Mark, let's go.
Story about a cow we had, I don't remember, it was 360, so we called her 360. She was a good cow. And one year she lost her calf, and it had been about 2 weeks since she'd lost her calf, and we came up with this other calf that needed a mama. Well, you know, after 2 weeks, they don't take them too easy. And we'd have to run her in the barn, catch her head, and let the calf be good and hungry, you know. And she got to where she would, we put a kicker on her at first, and she let that calf nurse, but you know, you had to run her in and catch her head. Well, you do that for a week, you know, and they just get into the habit. You know, they're not gonna change if you do the same thing. every day, and we, you know, you get tired of that. So my wife was taking pretty much charge of this, and finally we turned old 360 into this smaller pen and got that calf good and hungry, and we let that calf in that smaller pen, and that calf would go after Mama, but Mama would, you know, she'd dance around, kick at it. And my wife would stand there and she'd scold that cow. And that cow went, okay. after, you know, it didn't take till after 2-3 days, she finally let that cow. But I totally identified with that cow because I knew what it was like to be scolded by my wife. Oh, 360, she was a good cow, but I don't know, I guess you got her right about drinking too, you know.
Oh yeah, we have
and I've had my
That might be my next one.
share of troubles with drinking too much. But this one, it's called 3 Old Friends of Mine. Lately, I've been spending a lot of time with 3 old friends of mine. Their names are Bud, Jim, and Jack. And I guess I've done it because in my life there's something I lack. They tell me that with them I'll be satisfied, but come to find out all they've done is lied. I did it hoping that better I would feel, but I'm getting no help from them. This hurt they can't heal. On me, they're starting to get a tight grip, and my hold on the precious things in life is starting to slip. So to you 3, there's something I need to tell. Before you send me there, I want you guys to go to hell. I'll say it again, Bud, Jim, and Jack. Take your hands off of me, get out of my life, and don't come back.
Yeah.